Before this story begins, I need you to do one thing. If you believe that trust is the foundation of every relationship, and that betrayal hurts the most when it comes from the people closest to you, then make sure you subscribe to this channel, because the story you're about to hear isn't just about love, it's about deception, manipulation, and how one person tried to destroy a marriage from the inside. And trust me, what happened next changed everything. The day I married Peter felt like stepping into a life I had never imagined for myself, not because I didn't believe in love, but because everything about his world was so different from mine that it almost felt unreal. I grew up in a small, quiet town in America, the kind of place where everyone knows your name, where mornings start slowly, and where life doesn't rush past you. My parents were both teachers. They weren't wealthy, but they were rich in values. Our home wasn't filled with expensive things. It was filled with books, conversations, and lessons about honesty, patience, and kindness. We didn't chase money, we chased meaning, and for most of my life, that was enough. Then I met Peter. Peter came from a completely different world, a world of influence, power, and wealth that stretched far beyond anything I had ever seen. His family owned multiple businesses across different states: real estate, hotels, investments, the kind of empire people only read about. The first time I visited his family home, I remember sitting quietly in the car as we drove up a long, winding road that led to a massive estate sitting high above the city. Tall iron gates opened automatically as we approached. The house, no, the mansion, stood proudly behind them, surrounded by perfectly designed gardens that looked like something out of a magazine. For a moment, I didn't say anything. I just stared, because deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong there. But then Peter reached over, gently took my hand, and smiled. "This is your home now," he said softly. And somehow, in that moment, I believed him. When I officially entered that house as his fiancée, everything felt overwhelming, but not in a bad way. His parents welcomed me with warmth that I hadn't expected. His mother embraced me, like I was already part of the family. There was something genuine in her smile, something comforting that eased my nerves. His father, a man whose presence carried quiet authority, spoke proudly about Peter's decision. He admired that his son had chosen someone who valued character over wealth, someone like me. For a while, I felt accepted. For a while, everything felt right, but not everyone in that house saw me the same way. There was one person whose behavior stood out from the very beginning. Peter's younger brother. The first time we met, there was something about the way he looked at me that made me uncomfortable. Though I couldn't explain why at the time, it wasn't obvious. It wasn't rude, but it wasn't warm either. It felt calculated, as if he was studying me, analyzing me, trying to figure something out. "You're the famous Arya," he said slowly, as we shook hands, "the one who stole my brother's heart." His words sounded polite, but his tone carried something else. Something subtle and unsettling. I forced a small smile. "I didn't know I was famous," I replied lightly. He smirked. "Oh, you are," he said, and for a brief second, I felt a chill run through me. I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. After all, not everyone expresses themselves the same way. Some people take time to open up. Some people just have a different personality. That's what I believed. That's what I wanted to believe. The wedding itself was more beautiful than anything I had ever dreamed of. Hundreds of guests filled a grand hall glowing with crystal chandeliers that reflected light like stars across the polished floors. Everything was perfect: the music, the decorations, the atmosphere, and when Peter and I stood together, exchanging our vows, I felt something deep and certain inside my heart. I felt safe. I felt loved. I felt like no matter what happened, we would face it together. What I didn't know, standing there in that moment, was that someone else in that very room had already started planning my downfall. Life after the wedding was comfortable, but unfamiliar. The house was always quiet, but never empty. Staff moved silently through the halls, handling everything before you even realized it needed to be done. Every meal looked like it came from a five-star restaurant. Every room felt like it belonged in a luxury catalog. But despite all of that, something felt off. Not in the house, not in the lifestyle, but in the people, or more specifically, in one person, J. Unlike Peter, who spent most of his time working and managing the family business, Jay seemed to always be around. He didn't follow a schedule. He didn't seem to have responsibilities. He just existed within the house, walking through rooms, appearing unexpectedly, watching, observing at first. Our interactions were normal, short conversations, polite exchanges, nothing unusual, but slowly, something began to change. He started finding reasons to talk to me when Peter wasn't around at first. It felt coincidental, then it started feeling intentional. One afternoon, I was arranging flowers in the living room when I heard footsteps. Behind me, I turned slightly. Jay was standing near the doorway, watching me. "You're different," he said casually. I paused. "Different how?" I asked. He stepped closer, leaning slightly against the wall. "From the kind of women my brother usually brings around." I smiled politely, unsure how to respond. "I'll take that as a compliment." "Oh, it is," he said, but something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. A few days later, I was sitting alone in the garden, reading, enjoying a rare moment of quiet, and just like that, he appeared again. "You must get lonely." "Here," he said. I closed my book slowly. "I'm not lonely." He looked at me for a moment, then said something that instantly changed the tone. I frowned slightly. "What's that supposed to mean?" He shrugged. "Peter works too much. He won't notice things." There was something in his voice, something deliberate. I stood up immediately. "Jay, I think you're crossing a line." He raised his hand slightly, as if amused. "Relax. I'm just being friendly." But from that day on, I started avoiding him. I stayed in areas where other people were present. I kept conversations short, polite, distant. I created boundaries, clear ones, but instead of backing off, he became more persistent, and deep down, I started to feel it. Quiet, growing sense of unease. Because this wasn't just harmless behavior. Anymore, something was changing. Something was building, and I didn't yet understand how dangerous it was about to become from that point on. I knew one thing for certain. Jay wasn't going to stop, and if I stayed silent, he would win. The lies didn't come all at once. They came slowly, carefully, like drops of poison sinking into water. At first, they were small, almost harmless, easy to ignore, but that's exactly what made them dangerous. Jay began planting doubts in Peter's mind when I wasn't around. Casual comments, carefully worded observations. "I think Arya spends a lot of time on her phone. She seems very friendly with some of the staff. I saw her talking to someone outside the gate." Each sentence by itself meant nothing, but repeated over and over again, they started forming a pattern, a story, a lie, that sounded real, and slowly, I began to see the change in Peter. At first it was subtle, barely noticeable, but to someone who knew him, it was impossible to miss. He started asking questions he had never asked before. "Where did you go today? Who were you talking to? Why didn't you pick up my call earlier?" Simple questions, but filled with something new, something unfamiliar. Doubt. Doubt. "Why are you suddenly questioning everything I do?" He avoided my eyes. "I'm not questioning you. You are," I said gently. "And it's hurting me." He sighed, rubbing his forehead like he was trying to clear his thoughts. "Jay mentioned something again today." My chest tightened. "What did he say this time?" He hesitated, then finally said, "He thinks you're hiding something." That was the moment it truly hit me. This wasn't random. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was a plan, and Jay was executing it perfectly. But then he made a mistake. A few days later, Peter called me while I was upstairs. His voice was tense. "Arya, why did you send Jay those messages?" I froze. What messages? The ones on his phone? My heart started racing. I didn't send him anything. There was silence. Then my phone buzzed. Peter had forwarded screenshots. I opened them, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. Messages, flirtatious, suggestive, written, from a number saved under my name. But it wasn't my number, Peter, I said quickly, trying to steady my voice. "This isn't me." "He showed me your contact," he replied. "That's not my number," I insisted. "Check it right now." There was a pause, a long one. Then I heard him exhale slowly. "It's different." That was the first crack. The first time doubt shifted. Away from me. From that moment on, I stopped reacting emotionally. I stopped defending myself blindly. Instead, I started preparing. I began documenting everything, every strange interaction, every time. Jay tried to approach me when no one was around. Every comment, every detail, dates, times, situations. Because I realized something important. If Jay was building a story, I needed evidence to destroy it. Then came the night everything changed. Peter had gone out for a late meeting. The house was unusually quiet, almost too quiet. I was in the kitchen making tea when I felt it, that familiar presence, still avoiding me. Jay's voice came from behind. I didn't turn immediately. "I have nothing to say to you." He laughed softly. "You know, this could have been easy." I turned then, meeting his eyes. "What do you want, Jay?" He stepped closer, not too close, but enough to make his intention clear. "You." For a second, everything went still, but this time, I wasn't afraid, because this time, I was ready. "You've been trying to destroy my marriage," I said calmly. He smirked. "No, you're doing that yourself." "I have proof," I replied. That made him pause just for a second, but it was enough. "What proof?" he asked. "Everything," I said. "The fake messages, the lies, the way you've been trying to manipulate Peter." His expression changed. The confidence slipped, and then I said the one thing he didn't expect. "And this conversation is being recorded." Silence, heavy, sharp. 4. The first time since I had known him. Jay looked uncertain. "You're lying," he said. I held up my phone, still recording, and in that moment, he made his biggest mistake. He laughed. "But this time, there was no control in it. Even if you show him," he said, his voice turning cold, "he already doubts you." That's the beauty of it. That one sentence, that one confession, was everything I needed. Because just then, another voice spoke. "Not anymore." Jay's face went pale, slowly. He turned around. Peter was standing there. He had come back earlier than expected. And he had heard everything. The silence that followed felt endless. Peter stepped forward. His expression wasn't angry. It was something worse, disappointed. Double quotes, "Is this true?" he asked quietly. Jay didn't answer, because he couldn't. "I trusted you," Peter continued, "and you tried to destroy my marriage." Jay tried to speak, tried to explain, but there was nothing left to say, because the truth was already exposed. That night changed everything. Jay was forced to leave the house, not just by Peter, but by the entire family, because once the truth came out, everything he had built collapsed instantly. As for me, the damage didn't disappear overnight. Trust, once shaken, takes time to rebuild. Peter apologized more than once, not just for believing the lies, but for not protecting me when I needed him most. And I forgave him. Not because it was easy, but because I understood something important. Love isn't about never facing problems. It's about choosing each other, even after the truth is revealed today. That house still stands, the same walls, the same rooms, the same quiet halls, but everything feels different now, stronger, clearer, safer, because the lies are gone, the truth remains, and sometimes that's the only thing you need to rebuild everything. If you've made it this far, then you understand something most people don't. Not every enemy comes from outside. Sometimes they're already inside your home. If you believe truth always finds a way to come out. Make sure you subscribe, because stories like this are more common than you think.